Card, please.
Alexander Zverev first burst onto the elite tennis stage in 2017, stunning Novak Djokovic in Rome for his maiden Masters 1000 title. He then defeated Roger Federer on the hard courts of Montreal for his second. Almost immediately, the young German was being tipped by fans and pundits alike to end the Big Three's dominance at the Grand Slams. But there was a problem. Despite 3 further ATP titles and another Masters crown in 2018, his form at the majors continued to desert him. Although a quarter-finalist at Roland Garros, he failed to advance past the 3rd round at the other 3. To that point, Zverev had won 63.4% of sets at Masters 1000 series events, but at Grand Slams it dropped to 59.8%, despite the field being wider and therefore slightly watered down. When asked about Zverev's troubles, former world number 1 and 7-time Grand Slam winner Mats Wilander was quoted as saying, "Zverev is yet to find a way to adjust to the different rhythm of best-of-5-set matches, compared to the regular best-of-3 encounters on the tour where he's been consistently successful." Questions were asked of Zverev's mentality, if he had what it took to become a Grand Slam champion. Attention was drawn to the way he carried himself during matches and how he conducted himself off the court. Previous coach Juan Carlos Ferrer had some scathing comments about Zverev's professionalism after an acrimonious split between the pair following the Australian Open in 2018. He did not do quality training more than an hour and a half. There were protests, stops, anger and distractions, lack of punctuality and lack of respect for the members of his team, the former world number 1 said. But to Zverev's credit, he did seemingly take on board some of Ferrero's advice, when a few months later he appointed another hard taskmaster, Ivan Lendl, as his coach. Alongside Andy Murray's former fitness guru Jez Green, he upped Zverev's physical training and put in place a 5-year development program, which saw Zverev finish the 2018 season on the most significant high of his career, when he won the ATP World Tour Finals. Zverev was now expected to kick on and fulfill his immense potential. Issues off the court, however, were becoming an increasing distraction. A prolonged legal battle with his former agent left him managerless, and yet another bitter high-profile split from a coach, this time Lendl, meant 2019 was a tough year for the German. With only 1 title at a minor ATP 250 event in Geneva, Zverev was in real danger of being labelled an underachiever. His game style was under scrutiny too, as criticism mounted over his passive tactics. As a point progressed, he'd sink further and further back on the court, often engaging in rallies well behind the baseline. He was inviting pressure on himself, which only heaped more importance on his serve. Astonishingly, of the points he lost in 2019, 7.2% of them came from double faults. Every second serve created tension, evidenced in his technique, so often he'd decelerate the racket head as he approached the contact point. His serve speed showed little variation compared to the previous year, but the hesitancy in his technique spoke volumes about his state of mind. So chronic was the problem it became a running joke within the sport. WTA starlet Belinda Bencic even tweeted Zverev in January 2020, asking him to join her in donating to the Australian bushfire relief effort for every double fault hit in the Australian Open series. If only Bencic had got Zverev to commit before the ATP Cup in Brisbane that year. On average, he hit almost 3 second serves a game with 31 double faults, equating to an extra $6,200 in the bushfire relief pot. The upside to his poor form was the lack of expectation placed on him heading into the 2020 Australian Open. After reportedly spending up to 7 hours a day on court, executing intense training sessions, Zverev went on to produce an unheard-of serving performance on his way to his first ever Grand Slam semi-final. Averaging just 1 second serve per game, he led the tournament in first serves made, a career-best 79.6%. He went from averaging 2.94 second serves per service game in Brisbane to an astonishing 1.19 in Melbourne. These kinds of numbers are rare and difficult to sustain. The 5-time running season leader in this stat, John Isner, has never managed below 1.72 for a season. And so it proved. In Acapulco, he reverted to type, crashing out in the second round and double faulting on 15% of his second serves. This was a frustration for Zverev, having seemingly turned a corner in Melbourne. In July 2020, with his career potentially at a crossroads, he turned to David Ferrer. When I was looking for another member for my team, I kept thinking of David's professionalism, his ability to squeeze a lot from his physique and his game, Zverev told German broadcaster ARD. To take my game to the next level, I preferred someone who has been in the same position. It was soon obvious that our goals and personalities fit together. I'm a player who needs repetition. In this way, David is perfect. He later added, "He was so unbelievably well organised and the work has been incredible. I enjoyed the practices more than I did in the last few years." The arrangement was casual at first, but seemed to have the required effect. Although Ferrer wasn't in his box at the US Open, Zverev demonstrated the same gutsy staying power that was his coach's trademark. His first 3 rounds were all ground out over 4 sets, and even when the double faults crept in, as they did in the quarter-final against Borna Coric, he still prevailed. The semi-final against Pablo Carreno Busta provided another career milestone, as for the first time at a slam, Zverev came from 2 sets down to win. The work on his fitness and mentality over the distance was paying off. The tables were turned in the final, of course, where Dominic Thiem shattered the German's dream of a first major title. A loss from 2 sets up was devastating, but a symptom perhaps of performance anxiety in a first-time finalist. The fear of losing overcoming the desire to win as the finish line neared. However, it was a tournament that showed the fruits of Ferrer's labours. Others tried coaching an X-factor into Zverev, but this proved impossible. Ferrer, on the other hand, has encouraged his charge to embrace his natural counterpunching tendencies. This took pressure off his serve and meant the double faults were less prevalent and less important. Before, Zverev struggled to consolidate a game plan, and this tended to unravel the longer the match went on, hence his previous Grand Slam woes. The double faults were symptomatic of a deeper fault line. Trust in the game plan relies upon trust in the coach and his methods, something Zverev seemed to have in Ferrer. In turn, the Spaniard said Zverev had made great progress with his attitude. But however much Zverev tried to fashion himself into the model pupil, off-court issues continue to plague him. In late 2020, allegations of domestic violence emerged from former girlfriend Olya Sharipova. She alleged Zverev tried to strangle her with a pillow in August 2019 before that year's US Open. Zverev denied the claims, calling them unfounded and simply not true. Then, in early 2021, he found himself without a coach once more as he split with Ferrer, who was quoted by Spanish website Punto de Break as saying he did not want to leave behind his family and travel on tour during the global pandemic. Both insisted they parted on good terms, and it would certainly appear Ferrer has been good for Zverev. Where Zverev will turn to next will certainly be interesting. He's establishing an unwanted reputation of someone who's difficult to coach, as well as someone with a hot-headed temperament. His behaviour, both on and off the court, will inevitably come under the microscope once again in 2021.